Welcome to Meet the Candidates here on WCMU. I'm David Nicholas, and we welcome in as our guest Dr. Bob Lorinser. He is a Democratic candidate for Michigan's 1st Congressional District. This is the large district in the north, 15 counties across Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and all or portions of 21 additional counties that are in the northern part of the state and north central Michigan. Thank you, sir, very much for joining us.
No, thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
In the first part here, just a few moments for you to get acquainted with even a few more of the potential voters in this race. A little bit about you, hometown, background, experience that you bring to this campaign.
So I hail from Marquette, Michigan, up in the UP in Marquette County. I've been a resident there since 1989. I started my professional career as a social worker at the Veterans Hospital in Minnesota, moved on to the Navajo Nation, served as a physician with the Indian Health Service for 3 years before coming to Marquette in 1989, where I served as a family physician for 25 years. I left my job in Marquette to become a diplomat. Served for the Department of State and the Foreign Service as a diplomat called a regional medical officer. I did 5 tours overseas, and all your tourist traps, Pakistan, South Korea, Afghanistan, North Africa, and my final 2 years in Iraq. I came back home to Marquette. The plan was to develop a new skill set. I was going to learn how to fly a plane, even though I had no interest being a pilot. I just wanted to learn how to fly. And Habitat for Humanity, a doctor pounding nails. And instead, I became the public health medical director of 4 of the 6 health departments in the UP. And I'm still practicing as a medical director for Marquette County. And then I'm off to the races running for Congress for the last 13 months. So it's been a very interesting period of time after my arrival back home from Iraq.
And as you have traveled this very large district, meeting with obviously a lot of folks across this big amount of territory in Michigan, the things that you have seen, observed, especially in areas that maybe you had not been to prior, and in talking with the voters, what do you see and what are they telling you are the top maybe 1 or 2 issues that are most prevalent in this campaign?
Yeah. You know, all the counties are different. It's 36 counties, but if I could say, I hear the same things nearly over and over, but with a local flair. It's all a little different in what county you're in, but it's all the same things. People are concerned about their families. People are concerned about the economy. People are worried about jobs. They're worried about their future. They love living up in northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula. They'd like to see the opportunity for their children to do the same. So the highest, maybe 2 issues that we're talking about would be the future. You know, it's like, how can their children stay here? It comes down to infrastructure and jobs. If you get the infrastructure, if you bring infrastructure in, human and physical, human would be, you know, say, human and physical, schools, healthcare, education, you bring that in, and along with the infrastructure such as broadband, transportation, that will bring jobs and businesses in. If you get jobs and businesses back in, then it will thrive with our schools and our healthcare, and we'll have a sustainable 1st district where we could live, work, play, and worship in the present and the future.
Lack of attention, then, would you say, from Lansing, or Lansing in conjunction with the congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. that you hope to be a part of, in terms of, we know that everyone loves the pristine nature of that area of the Upper Peninsula, but to be able to utilize it in perhaps different ways where more development could take place and you could still have that balance, but be able to bring in the infrastructure and perhaps attract more people and then be able to set up, establish, and maintain jobs there. How would you propose bridging some of those gaps that we've seen so far?
Yeah, it takes partnership, doesn't it? I think everything that we could talk about, if we talk about childcare, education, housing, healthcare, everything that probably affects the first district would be a combination of the local, the local leaders with state and federal assistance. I'd like to end up saying my job as a congressperson is to provide resources, to the first district for them to address their problems. What the major thing that a representative could do or the federal government could do is financing, money, right? We're not going to tell you how or where to build your schools, but we want to provide taxpayer money for you to develop the first district for jobs to come there. I think it could be a nice combination, right? Local control with guidance from the state and assistance from the federal government. I don't want to be part of the federal government that said you must do A, B, and C and do it this way. I call it assistance from the federal government under local control with guidance from the state, partnerships.
The folks that you've met then across the Upper Peninsula and in northern Michigan, areas in the UP, we think of at one time the copper mining industry, and in all across the UP and into northern Michigan a lot in the history of lumber, certainly. And so as folks approach it now here in a year like 2022, what do they feel is the ripe or right / correct way to go in terms of, if it's not a major, overall major industry, the types of things that they think would work best in terms of small businesses getting established and being able to grow across this district?
Yeah, lumbering is still an important issue. Mining is still an important issue, for Upper Michigan and for Northern Michigan. Agriculture is an important issue. I think the best thing that we could end up doing in the first district is to diversify. You can't put everything in one basket. If you put it all into the lumber or the mining, you're going to have problems. So if you look at any place that has put all of their, say, jobs, if we talk about jobs in the same that's probably a mistake. The first district would be a great place, for teleworkers. It'd be a great place for services. It'd be a great place for small businesses. But to bring these industries in, you got to have the infrastructure. Why would an employer come up here if there's not good health care? If there's not good education for their children? Why would a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, come into a community where they can't even get health care, where the schools are not available, or the arts, because you work to play, right? You work to play and to enjoy yourself. So I think the Upper Peninsula in Northern Michigan would do really well, because what do we have for us? We have plenty of land, we have good people, we have spaces. It's not an expensive place to live. It's a very enjoyable place to live. I hear people saying they're worried about a population explosion, with the environment, coming down, and everybody's want to come up to, northern Michigan. And we saw some of that during COVID. I still think, for our future, we're not just a tourist industry either, right? We need tourism. We need all these things. So I think the way to do it is to diversify, support each other, and when one sector hits a problem, the other sector will take up. But you do hear about, hey, my family grew up over here, and they had to go downstate. Downstate for, Traverse City, downstate to get an education. Then why do they come back? There's no jobs for them. I don't want to live here because I don't have things I enjoy. So I'd like to be part of the solution to the first district. But again, not directing. I'd like to assist. I'd like the federal government to assist, and the state to guide and the locals to direct.
When you talk about then the solution, the answers to this, do you envision a timeline? This isn't going to happen overnight or even in the course of a single congressional term, but do you have a sense of if you go to Washington to represent this district, what would be then the first priority? And do you have the beginnings of a list of, we need to do this first, second, third, to sort of start building this bit by bit across the district to reach the goals that you're talking about?
Yeah, you know, remember, they're not my goals. They should be goals of the first district. That's what a representative does. A representative has, you know, multiple duties and obligations, but one of the duties and obligations to serve the members of your district. So it's not my goals; it would be the goals of the district. Now, with that being said, here we go. I'd like to be, you know, there's right now the race, my race is dead in a dead heat. You know, against myself and the opponent, we're in a dead heat. We came from 26 points behind to an even race right now with 3 weeks ago for the election. When I'm elected, I'd like to end up saying, I'd like to be placed on the Appropriations Committee, Subcommittee, and Rural Development. What a place to be placed, to be put. Rural development. So he said, what's my priority? If you were placed on Appropriations Committee on rural development, I could have my hand, fingers, a voice in almost anything into rural development. And why would they pick me, you know, if that would be one of my committees? Because I would like to represent rural America, not just the first district, rural America. I'm sorry, but I believe my Democratic Party has abandoned rural America. My Democratic Party has abandoned rural America. I'd like to develop rural America with partnerships, like I said, local, state, and federals. How can rural America, which is 30% of our population and 80% or 70% of our landmass, how can we thrive? You know, we're completely different than urban areas. We're completely different, like in the state of Michigan, between Ann Arbor, Lansing, and Grand Rapids. It takes a special skill set. I live here. I enjoy it. It's a long-term project. I'd love to be part of the solution.
And it kind of leads us into looking then at a final message you'd want to leave with the voters, because it's talking to them, getting their ideas, bringing those into what you've been discussing here. If you were to take these types of issues, this type of discussion, and try to bring that down to the single message you would want to leave with the voters as they get set to go to the polls, what would that message be?
Yeah, I will work with you, for you. I will work with you and for you, not against you. I will vote with you, not against you. I will vote for my district, not for my party. I will try to inspire. I will educate, inform, and engage my constituents to do what we believe is the best for the first district. I believe I would cooperate, collaborate, negotiate, and compromise to get things done. I would not be the representative, the Democratic representative. I'd be the representative for the first district, the young, the old, you know, whatever gender you are, whatever political party you are interested in. My goal is to champion the first district. I also will say, yes, I accept that good people will disagree with each other, but I promise to serve, listen, and to respect, problem solve. I promise to unite and represent all of us in the first district. That's what I could promise you. I will be accessible. I will be accountable. I have done 300 listening tours. You know, like right before this now, as I'm sitting in the janitor's room of the public education, just met with the educators. I will meet with everybody that wants to move us forward, not to the left, not to the right, but forward. And yes, I do promise that. I promise you that, not as a politician, but as a grandfather. I promise you that as a father, a husband, a family physician, a friend, and a youper. I will work for us, all of us, to get things accomplished.
Well, we appreciate your time today to talk to the issues and most importantly to the prospective voters of this district. We wish you best of luck with the rest of the campaign, and thank you again very much for your time.
Yeah, and I thank all the voters for taking a part of this. The crown jewel of our democracy is the informed voter. To find out who you're voting for, what they believe, please vote on November 8th. whoever you vote for, I will honor your vote, and I look forward to everyone's participation to make where we live a better place. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're very welcome. And we have been speaking with Dr. Bob Lorinser. He's the Democratic candidate for Michigan's 1st Congressional District. We echo his sentiments in saying please do exercise your right to vote on Tuesday, November 8th. All qualifying candidates were invited to participate in this series. Following the redraw of Michigan House, Michigan Senate, and congressional districts, check with local officials to make sure you are properly registered. Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th.